So, who would like to share? Let's open it up.
All right, we have Kay to start with. Kay, I'm going to unmute you now.
I think I'm muted.
Oh, hi, Kay.
Hi. I still see Phil on the screen.
Well, if I speak, do you see me?
Yeah, now I see you.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much. Your description of the ground of being earlier, I experienced maybe like 4 days ago last year at Audia's retreat. At the end of the retreat, it grabbed me by the tail and pulled me down with such tremendous force into it. Then I knew it was a grace where I disappeared, so to speak. And I knew it was a grace, and at that time I was like in a relationship, and it was like, oh, that's gone. And sure enough, after coming back from retreat, that pull that drew down started to plunge up, like what you described. But it wasn't a spring, it was more like the reverse of that pull with tremendous force going up and plowing through. And I think it was so much force over like 6 months, 8 months. Only recently, in the last 4, did it start to taper and all this happen. And my question was, so when we went through this, I felt resistance. And I'm like, why? Because when in the depth of that ground, what I saw was how unfathomably beautiful we are. And I was like, this is my true love. And yet, there's resistance now to it, I think, because with so much pushing through, like really slashing. But it's really what I want.
Indeed, it is.
It's what we are.
It's what we are.
And it's not to be feared, but somehow the fear crept in through this process of so much letting go.
Yes, it can clear out a lot. It can do a lot of reorganizing.
When the connection afterwards with the everything, nature, everything, the concrete, ridiculous, but everything.
That's right, everything. Everyone and everything.
Yeah. And to find that sort of like sahaja, or the in the ordinary.
This is it. It's imminent.
And it's what I want to live there. And this creeping in of old maybe habit of old standbys. I just want to let those go already. It's ridiculous knowing that there's no wall, and yet I'll still face that prison wall. Still. Well, so there's judgment. I'm like, come on already.
Right. Yeah. But actually, this is very much part of the process.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's inevitable and actually important, because there is an acclimation of the body-mind to this. And it's a process. And if things change too fast, it becomes overwhelming, right? So it has to go at a pace that's tolerable. And it also has to be tempered. That is to say, tried out in our ordinary experience. And there is a momentum to our old patterns of functioning. Even when there's a revelatory opening like this, right? It's a process of those old patterns reorienting to what we know to be true. And that takes time. That's a transposition of living in accord with this.
You seem to be old, like adolescent old almost.
Yes, adolescent and often younger.
Okay, yeah.
But certainly can be adolescent as well. So it will flush out, often subconscious conditioning in order to be met with understanding and love. And so we stop judging ourselves for so-called resistance. And we start becoming curious and affectionate and patient and understand this is actually a very natural part of the unfolding.
In March, just as much as this came pulled down from above, it was like several nights in a row, but 2 nights in a row, like multiple times through March, where it's like no head and just charging station from above. And so it's just like I'm being cooked.
Yes, that's
but
right.
A beauty also where I see it is like it's wrapping the globe. It's beautiful. Well, even it's awful. It's as COVID seems. I have 3 family members with COVID. They're fine now, but in spite of that, it's this beauty and transformation that's happening on the level of,
That's right. It comes from both directions, as an upwelling and as a downpouring.
So just trust.
Trust. Just trust. Trust and be patient. There's a natural unfolding that's happening. It's entirely benevolent. Trustworthy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next, we have John Robert Cornell. John, I'll go ahead and unmute you now.
Hi, John.
Hi, John Robert.
Nice to see you again.
It is. It's very nice to see you.
So I got 4 answers to the question.
Your audio is cutting out a bit, so I may ask you to repeat. You got 4 answers to the question, I understood. Yeah, we're having a freeze here, John Robert.
So the first answer was, shall I try again?
Yeah, start over.
The first answer was turmoil in my lower abdomen and pain, nausea. That was the first answer. That comes through.
We got the first one. Try the second one. But you're frozen right now.
Did that come through okay?
We've heard the first.
The second one was the second one that you said to take station in the heart. And so the second answer came I love you.
Hmm. So the second answer was, I love you. So Phil, we've lost the audio here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the third answer,
Oh.
I unmuted myself.
Okay, the third?
The third answer, so I was still stationed in the heart. And the third answer to the question was, I am. And it was a very authoritative presence. And it just said that.
Beautiful.
And the fourth answer was space, spaciousness in my lower members.
Mm. Beautiful. Powerful revelation.
Yeah, yes, it was.
Thank you. I think because of the audio, poor audio, we'll need to end, but I'm glad we got your 4 responses out. They're very powerful and very authentic, very deep and beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have Ben. Ben, I'll go ahead and unmute you.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Hey, John.
Hi, Ben.
That was really interesting. I don't think I could really put words to any of the answers that I got. It was all just sort of felt. But right at the end, like what was coming through touched something really kind of low down, like, yeah, way deep down in my heart. And like, I just realized that I've had this like exactly backwards. I thought that knowing my own ground was in some way going to like separate me from other people. Like others who aren't like living from that place, like there would be a disconnect. And that feels just really important to like see that is emphatically not the case. Because I think there's been a lot of resistance arising out of that.
Indeed.
And yeah, it just feels like a very deep and important thing.
It is. It's very important. And this is not uncommon to hold this confusion, this misbelief. I find actually this is one of the greatest impediments to really opening to an embodied understanding of our true nature is the fear that we will lose connection.
That's exactly it. Like I really, I really feel that.
That's it, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And so we hold back because we don't want to lose connection. But the truth is, we find connection. It is the opposite. We find the most intimate, the most profound connection, not only with one another, but with life, all of it.
Mm.
Not just human beings. Because our true ground is not separate, not private. It is shared. This is a very important understanding to trust and let in. What happens when you do?
just a sense of kind of an unwinding,
Mhm.
and I don't know quite how to. Something's very excited about this.
Mhm.
That's a very exciting thing to realize.
It's very alive, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like I don't have to hold back.
That's it.
Like I don't have to hold back. I don't have to
That's
like
it.
small. I don't have to like keep this in a box. Like I get to let it rip.
Let it rip.
Yeah.
That's right. You don't have to hold this back. You don't have to stay small. What a relief.
Big relief.
Freedom. Often we think that autonomy and intimacy are opposed. This is a related theme, not necessarily the one you're speaking of.
I got that going on too, though. So it's
Okay.
well.
But they're not. It's like in our autonomy, in the trust of our inner authority, of our knowing, of our deep ground, we become intimate with all things. Autonomy, intimacy spring from the same source.
Okay, I get that.
Mm.
There's no prospect of like real intimacy unless you're standing in your own authority and in your own
This is it. What we've accepted are veiled forms of intimacy and connection, qualified forms.
giving up a lot of myself.
Yes,
in order to be in a certain kind of connection with
exactly. That's the price we pay.
It's intolerable.
It is. It's intolerable. It's insufferable. Mm-hmm.
It just like splits you.
It does. It creates division. And it actually undermines real deepest intimacy then within oneself and of course then with others.
Because there's always a part that's pushing back against it.
Exactly. In resistance. That's right. It knows that there's a compromise going here, that there is a false self at work.
There's a little fear here I can feel of just like, I guess just not knowing how people are going to respond.
No, you don't know.
Yeah.
My experience is people respond beautifully. People respond beautifully to true authenticity. It's true, it does ruffle feathers every once in a while.
That's kind of fun too, I think, actually.
That's right, we're out of the box, right? And relationships come out of the box. They become more and more truthful and therefore more alive. And they find their natural form, whatever that may be. And we trust that. Yeah. I am so grateful that I have.
There's a really deep trust.
Yeah.
That's sort of sad.
Thank you. Beautiful.